Biggest news in the wrestling world since the last time we were here. WWE announces for the first time in WWE history, SmackDown will air live on Tuesday nights. I don't believe... Are they calling it a brand extension? I know they're calling it distinct rosters.
Distinctive roster.
So, 2 totally separate shows. I don't think they pulled it off well the first time. I think most people would agree with that. Do you have high hopes for how they will pull it off this time around?
Well, the first time, they had so much talent with the WCW roster and ECW roster coming in, but they didn't handle all that talent properly. So after it started, it dwindled down a little bit. But it got built back up later in 2003 and 2004. But around 2005, that's when the hype really died down. And that's when they stopped the brand special pay-per-views, and they finally merged it back together. I remember you said we're going to get separate brand pay-per-views. I said, no, I don't want that because they were horrible. They're very hard to watch. But and now they do have the talent, and it's not older talent. It's up-and-coming talent. Because there's always, every time a show comes on, me and you text each other, me, you, and Eric, and laugh. We always say, where's Sasha? Where's Tyler Breeze? Where's Apollo Crews? Apollo Who's? Where's Neville? Why did he lose it? Now, these guys they're going to be put in situations to be on TV and they can actually win matches and show what they could do, because we always say where are these guys, but everybody can't make it on the show. It is a 3-hour show, but everybody can't make it on the show.
Yeah, it's an incredibly long show, but not quite long enough for the amount of people they have.
Yeah, like the talent is the highest it's ever been in ring wise, and these new guys, especially these NXT guys, they're gonna be able to get to show what they can do. Like people will say, "Well, I love Tyler Breeze." You'll see why I love Tyler Breeze. And
if you did not watch NXT, you hopefully will find out very soon.
Yeah, Apollo Crews may get a character. And then another important thing is when they start. How many times do you see that? When you're in the main event, after you lose the main event, you drop down and you're nowhere to be found.
Right.
That won't happen with a brand extension. So, for example, if you're Dean Ambrose, you lose the main event, you might drop down a peg, but you won't drop down all the way down to the low mid card.
Yeah, you're not going to become irrelevant because you didn't win the main event.
Yeah, and I think that what they're going to do is one of these shows will kind of be more catered to the IWC, and some speculation that I think is going to happen to make SmackDown important right away and to get those ratings up, because this is all about SmackDown and making it important again. So what I think that since Cena's been gone from Raw for so long and Raw's been fine without him, I think he'll become the face of SmackDown because that's their top guy for ratings. So I think they'll throw him on there, and also I think they'll throw Sasha Banks on there because she even did a WWE.com interview saying,
I did see that last night.
Yeah, of course you did.
I don't always watch those.
Yeah, those are the best ones.
Yeah.
I don't know why they never show them. But she did an interview saying that she loved SmackDown growing up, and SmackDown was great. Like when SmackDown, the brand schedule started, SmackDown was great. They had the SmackDown 6 with Angle, Benoit, Edge, Mysterio, and Angle, and Lesnar. They had SmackDown was the show to watch over Raw. So they're going to have that kind of situation now. These guys that haven't had the time to shine are going to get the time to shine. Same thing with Raw. But Raw is the flagship show, so they're not worried about Raw. But right away, I think they're going to put more emphasis on SmackDown.
So this actually is what I wrote about this week. I don't know if you got a chance to read it or not. Obviously not required reading to do the show, but it's topical for this. So one of the things I was going to ask you is, did you think there was, because I've had the same question, is one show going to be, like, is Raw going to stay the show Raw is? Are they going to make SmackDown catered more to a certain type of fan? Or will both shows kind of be similar, just with different rosters? I wrote a thing, it was some of my hopes and fears for the brand extension.
There's plenty of fears.
Well, you're right, there are. So one of my biggest hopes is that Cena and Reigns don't get separated. The reason being,
you mean
I want them to be on the same show.
Okay.
The reason being, how long have people been tired of John Cena and just the inevitability that no matter what, he's going to win?
Yeah.
And now Roman Reigns is the same thing. I don't hate either one of those guys. I don't dislike them. I actually think both of them are really good. And I think both of them, John Cena has carried the torch for 10-plus years. I think Roman Reigns will do the same thing. I don't know if he'll reach the same heights as Cena, but he has a chance. But I think if you have one show with both of those guys on it, the other show does not get saddled with one of those guys. If they're split up, both shows now have that guy that the fans are like, come on, you have to be kidding me. The other thing I hope one of the main things I hope the women stay all on one show.
I didn't really want that.
See, I do. I want them to stay on Raw for 2 reasons. One, I don't think they have enough women yet to split them up.
I do.
See, I don't, or they don't have enough that are established yet.
Okay.
So I think if you put them all on the same show, it keeps everything together. Raw for maybe forever. It might get to a point where they're viewed as equals, but while Raw is viewed as the show, I think it's good for them to have them on the show. Makes them more important, and with 3 hours to work with, you can now give them time, as opposed to you may have 6 or 7 women on Raw and 6 or 7 women on SmackDown, and you're splitting them up. I'd like to see them all in the same place. I don't know if either of these things are going to happen. I want them to keep one world champion too.
See, it got complicated originally. I don't know if you were watching it when it originally happened, but the champion was going back and forth. But then again, it's like, okay, what if they're feuding with a Raw guy? What are they going to do on SmackDown? If they're feuding with a SmackDown guy, what are they doing on Raw? It's kind of complicated. I don't mind.
I think that's where the Intercontinental Championship becomes more important.
Yeah, but see, this is what I would recommend. I would recommend one get the IC title, one gets the US title. The tag champs stay on one show. I can see your point with the women being exclusive to Raw.
I don't want 2 women's champions.
Yeah, that's the rumor that they'll keep the women's title on. It's going to be exclusive to Raw. Which I can see your point because they are established. I know they can go, but
yeah, eventually they get built up to a point where they can split.
Yeah.
But right now, I want to see them all in the same place where they can tell stories. Maybe get 2, maybe 3 segments a week now. Well, going forward, so I don't know. So you are in favor of 2 world championships, or you don't think they should have 2?
It makes more sense for the show because, like I said, one guy, like say the champion's in a feud with the guy on Raw. What are they going to do on SmackDown? They're not going to talk about the guy on Raw. Because they're kind of 2 different entities.
Right. I think they could alternate it. The main reason that I feel this way about the world title is it was one of the things that made it hard for me to get back into wrestling. When somebody would come out who was nobody, 2-time world champ, or, former world champion. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
This guy was a world champion?
Yeah, because the roster got so dwindled down and they took less focus off SmackDown. But the thing is, you can't do that now. If you're moving SmackDown live, you have to make SmackDown feel important. And when it first started, after SummerSlam, Lesnar went to SmackDown. It was Lesnar, Angle, JBL, for the most part. And then Cena came, and Cena went to Raw. And then they brought the world title over to SmackDown, and the WWE title went to Raw, and Batista had it for most of the time. So you have big names and main event level talent holding that championship, but you just have to keep it that way.
Yeah, so you watched more of that era than I did.
Yeah.
So I will take your word for it that they can do it the right way.
My fear is the tag teams.
They don't need to do that.
Because the first time in 2002, Vince broke up all the tag teams. And for whatever reason, by the end of the year, they all got back together, which made no sense. He broke the Dudleys up, they got back together at Survivor Series. Broke APA up, they got back together. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that's my fear. Like with the emergence of Big Cass, it's like, what if Vince decides to send Big Cass by himself?
That's been my worry for a few weeks now.
And now it's a legit worry.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the tag titles that could be on both shows. But you do have enough tag teams to have 2 tag team titles.
Yeah, I mean you have a couple down on the NXT roster now that probably could come up.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to start breaking up tag teams.
Yeah. And then you have tag teams that could be built up and be more serious. Like people don't like I don't know how you feel about the Ascension. The Ascension could be a thing.
They're fine.
Breezango, if they stay where they are, the Golden Truth
might give them a spot now.
Might give them a spot. Well, a win.
Yeah.
But it's like even throw 2 random guys together, that always works.
My last point on the One World Championship is if you are anointing someone as the guy, as Roman Reigns is, I think having him being available to both shows, I think that makes that title more important, and it makes that guy like a greater sense of responsibility.
Yeah, it makes the show important too.
It makes the show important, and like him holding that title for both shows, the level of responsibility that he now has to take. Like, there's more weight on your shoulders as the champion now if you're kind of carrying both shows to an extent.
Yeah.
So I think it puts that guy in a position where a lot of us were tired of Cena. But if you say, well, Cena has to carry both shows, this is why he's put in the position he is, because he's the only one who can do this, I think it makes it make a lot more sense. They haven't given us many details yet. We know there will be a draft. We don't know when. We don't really know a whole lot. We just know there will be separate rosters, a live show on Tuesday. They could very easily mess the whole thing up, but I'm at least excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.